Hey everyone, this is Melissa Hutchison, voice of Clementine from Telltale Games' The Walking Dead. Can't wait to meet you all Saturday, September 21st at R2V2.
Greetings, programs, and welcome to episode 262 of The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community. It's Monday, September 16th. I'm your host, Scott Clark, and I'm joined, as always, by my fellow co-hosts. First off, guy who's brand new to the podcast episodes. Gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Nick Behrensmeyer. What's up, Nick?
Hey, listen up, DT. You keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, for those of you that missed out on CB and I being on the local news here in Rockford talking about R2V2, the YouTube video that they sent us actually has us listed as Scott and Nick from The Gaming Outsider. So if you see CB on the interwebs or in person at the R2V2 this weekend, be sure to call him by his new name, which is Nick.
At this point in time, I might as well just change the name on my shirt.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Nick from The Gaming Outsider. I like it. I think it's funny.
Well, before we continue on, why don't you talk about a little bit about your Freudian slip that you made on live air?
Yeah. Well, I was trying to say that we are selling tickets at Disc Replay, and instead came out something a little bit different that I probably shouldn't say on a family-friendly podcast.
No.
And if you watch it, I think it's about the 2-minute mark when I say something that begins with D and then begins with T. A certain kind of tickets that is not a family-friendly, makes it sound like a not quite a family-friendly event. But what's funny is I didn't even notice I did it until you brought it up when we were sitting in the newsroom afterwards.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, I can't. There's no way it was that obvious. I went back and listened to it, and now that's all I hear.
Oh, yeah.
I need someone to do some video editing and just have me go back and saying it over and over again, like, I really want to say it, but
it was pretty glorious. I mean, the fact that even when you watch, you see me just like deadpan turn to you, like, what did you do?
Yeah, it was pretty funny, and they didn't cut it. They didn't cut it or edit it or anything, so it was subtle enough that they must not have been paying attention to it. But it was quite humorous. So
yeah.
Speaking of R2V2. We are less than 1 week away from the big event, guys. I am so nervous. I can't sleep. I had trouble sleeping last night because I keep thinking about, did I get this done? Did I get that done? What's going to go wrong? Who's not going to show up? Are the planes going to make it? I'm so nervous. Are you as nervous as I am?
Oh, my gosh, man. How many times yesterday did I call you and be like, did we get this? Did we get this? Hey, I'm going to stop by the store and pick this up. I think there was like a 30-minute time period where I called you like 5 times.
Well, what's funny is when you started this whole idea however many months ago, I never had any clue that this was going to be this much work put into this thing, but it's going to be worth it, man. It's so going to be worth it. By the way, before we go to our sponsors, which CB, I'm going to have you share those with me because I feel like I'm monologuing whenever we do those. Zach is not here this week. He's actually in the middle of traveling. He's on his way up here to Rockford. So we unfortunately will not be having him on the show this week. You're stuck with just CB and I. But we're going to be here for about an hour and a half or so to talk to you about video games and the news and some games that we've been playing. So let's go ahead and do some sponsors. CB, you start things off, man. I always read these.
So our first sponsor is Dairy House. It's honestly some of the best ice cream in this area. I love it. My wife loves it. My kids love it. If you're interested in it, he will also be, Brent, the owner of Dairy House, will be at R2V2 selling his famous ice cream. But if you want to get it before then or after then, he is located at 113 East Main Street in Rockton. Another one of our sponsors is Open World Gaming. Fantastic LAN center that opened a couple weeks ago. I know I've been there. Some of our community members have been there, and Scott's been there. That's at 320 North Alpine Road in Rockford. They have about 85 different game stations that you can try out and brand new pool tables as well. And then finally, we have Jack Tire Sales and Service. Locally owned, hit the road with Jack's for all your tire needs. They're located at 4829 Prairie Hill Road in South Beloit, and you can also find them online at jackstired.com.
And I just want to say thank you again to all of our sponsors for your help. You guys are the reason that we were able to make this event happen. We literally would not have been able to make this as big as it is without your help. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Also, I want to ask all of our listeners, please share R2V2 with your friends and family, especially if they're in the local area. You would be surprised how many people have not heard about this. I keep getting messages from people or seeing things on Twitter where people are saying, I live in the Rockford area and this is the first time I've heard about it. Not everybody listens to the radio. Not everybody listens to this podcast, obviously. Not everybody watches the news. So please spread the word and let anybody that you know that loves games in the area, make them aware of it so that they can come out and enjoy the awesome festivities that are going on there. Last thing I got before we go to the news, second to final reminder, for Amanda Sink's charity drive for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Amanda puts on this incredible event here in Rockford at Rock Valley College, where it is a suicide awareness and prevention event, and it's fantastic. And we are raising money for that cause, and we're doing a little bit of a competition between us and the Hollywood Outsider. So if you're in the giving mood and want to help out a great cause, the link for that is in the show notes for this episode. And I want to give a shout out to Brandon Smith from our community, as well as the EXP cast. Those guys gave a donation as well. And I have no idea how we're stacking up against the Hollywood Outsider, but we've got a pretty good start, and I would love to beat those guys. With that, let's go ahead and jump into the week's news. I feel like lately I've been saying, boy, there's not a whole lot happening in the news, but this week there's plenty. We got a lot to talk about, and a lot of that came from Tokyo Game Show, which took place this week. And the first big news I got out of there is about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I know I'm excited for. CB, are you stoked for it as well?
Oh yeah, man. I'm on board.
Oh, it looks so good. It looks great. But it's going to have a classic mode, so players will have the option to play the updated version of the game in terms of graphics and voice acting and all that, but with a turn-based menu style of the original Final Fantasy VII. So, like the ATB gauges will fill automatically, and you won't have the action-oriented combat that the remaster will, or remake will. And the game releases on March 3rd, 2020. What do you think, man? Are you going to play it this way, or do you want to play the action way that as God intended?
I'm actually going to play it as the classic mode.
Really?
Yep. For me, that game was always meant to be played that way. I understand the updates and the fact that they're doing a remaster, but for me, Final Fantasy VII will always be that classic turn-based RPG, and I love the boxes, man. It's always been fun that way for me.
Well, they're still there because again, I have played this game. I played the demo at E3, and they're still there. It's just not. It's not just the menu based. So there's still some action going around, but you're still filling up that ATB gauge, and then you kind of pause the game, and it goes into like the super slow motion, and then it pulls up the menus. So the menus with the finger will still be there, but the classic mode will be nothing but the fingers.
For me, that sounded a little weird, DT, but I actually legitimately think the classic mode for me is going to be more fun because I want to play it kind of like Resident Evil 2, where they just made some updates to it, but for the most part, the game was pretty much the same.
Okay.
So I will appreciate the updates that are made to it. More than likely, I will play through this game more than once. So
why doesn't Square Enix and Sony sell that demo for like $5? You know how many people would pay $5 for that thing?
I would gladly pay like $10 for it.
Seriously, like that, make it a paid demo. I know that seems crazy, like from a microtransaction argument standpoint or whatever, but do yourself a favor. Let people play it. Let them pay for it. I really want you to play this mode, and I want to see if you feel the same way after playing it, because I was blown away by how much fun it was. It was legitimately more fun than playing it the old school way. I'm not knocking the classic mode, because I think there are people like you that would just rather experience the story and experience the same kind of gameplay the way that they know it, but
without polygons.
Right. You need to give it a shot, though, man. It's pretty good. Also, we had some new trailers shown at Tokyo Game Show. The first one was Stranded Sails, Explorers of the Cursed Islands. This one looks very much like a, Harvest Moon or what was a more recent one that is escaping my mind right now?
Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley. It looks like that, but you're stranded on a desert island, so to speak, trying to build that up, build a community. It looks really good, actually. I was surprised at how good that looked. Are you interested in that at all, or would you rather just go back and play Stardew Valley more?
I might give this one a whirl. Don't get me wrong, I love Stardew Valley. I think that game is phenomenal, and I will still berate you for not playing it yet.
It's sitting like seriously like 10 feet away from me. I'm scared to death to touch it because I've heard that it's so addicting and I'll never play anything else.
Yeah, well, it is very addicting. I mean, I pretty much that's like the only thing that's on my Switch all the time. So
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I could play it on my Switch and earn achievements, but I say that every time. So, the one that stands out to me from Tokyo Game Show is this game called A Knight's Quest. Did you see the trailer for A Knight's Quest?
no, this is one of the ones I missed. I have not seen this yet, so
Okay, you need to watch the trailer for this one because this came out of nowhere and I think it looks fantastic. Granted, I'm a massive Legend of Zelda fan. This looks like somebody made a third person Zelda game and just slapped on different character assets and added some, I don't know, not surfing, but almost like rail grinding for some of the action. It looks bright, it looks colorful. I was talking to Nate, actually, our producer, and he actually said that he thought the character looked like me if I had red hair. So there's that. I I think it looks great. I'll try to put that link in the show notes for anybody that's watching it. But just seriously, go to YouTube and type in A Knight's Quest. I think that game looks fantastic. I will definitely be checking that one out. It just looks like my kind of game. More Death Stranding. I'm at the point with Death Stranding where I'm just not even going to bother watching anything because they're not going to explain anything. We're going to come away from it more confused. I'm to the point that if I'm going to play that game, I'm just going to play it when it releases and stop thinking about it because I'm tired of the non-answers.
yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've gotten to the point that every time I see like clickbait like Death Stranding, I just scroll right on by now. So
Yeah,
I'm actually starting to lose some interest in the game.
so am I. I
Just
really hate that.
Yeah, I'm just tired of it being smashed into my face. So don't get me wrong. I'm gonna play the game. I'm excited for it. There's just other things I'd rather see right now. I mean, the fact that there was the big, oh look, Keanu Reeves showed up at the studio. Maybe he's in Death Stranding. I'm like, oh my god, please no.
Well, that was me. Sorry about that.
Well, you weren't the only one. I saw
Okay.
quite a buzz out there on Twitter. So
That would be huge, but I'm losing interest the more and more I see this game. I mean, they had what like a 45, 47-minute demo of this game at the Tokyo Game Show, and still nobody knows how this game works, what you do, what the story is, what's going on in the story. That's just
yeah.
enormously frustrating to me that that he expects us to sit down for 45 minutes and be even more confused than we were when we sat down.
Well, I mean, it is kind of a Kojima thing.
That's true.
Just hey, look, here's a game. Be confused.
I mean, that's kind of like you said. It's been Kojima's thing. I mean, look at Metal Gear Solid 2, like how that game was marketed, and then what you actually wound up doing in Metal Gear Solid 2 was completely different from anything. I would genuinely love it if this game comes out and it plays nothing like what we've seen. Absolutely nothing. Like everything that we've
Bait and switch.
yeah, like everything that we've seen is just like limited assets that they just keep recycling for marketing purposes because they know how much people are excited for this game, and then it just winds up being this phenomenal thing that looks completely backwards from what we expected. That I would get behind, but I worry that if they do something like that, that this is going to be turning off a lot of people like me that are just not going to be interested. But once we hear the reviews, we're going to play it anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We also got a new trailer for Final Fantasy VII, which I already mentioned a little bit ago. Did not know that Mark Hamill was in the game. Did you realize that?
Didn't know it until you had told me after you saw the trailer, and I'm glad my boy is out there.
He plays Don. Is it Corneo? Is that the guy that owns like the what do you call it? A brothel?
Yep.
Uh,
So cross
where-
cross dressing Cloud.
Yeah, I really wish Zach was here so that I could say it's looking more and more like there's going to be cross-dressing Cloud in this game.
Yeah.
But anyway, the trailer looks good. They're bringing back. We finally got to see a little bit more of, I don't know, just some of the mini games that were in the original, like when they did the calisthenics. I know that's silly, but that just feels like a Final Fantasy VII staple to me. How good does Aerith look? It,
Yeah.
it
I
just
I actually showed a picture of Aerith from that to my wife, and she was legitimately surprised at how good the animation looks.
right.
I'm just more excited for Red 13.
Oh yeah, we haven't even seen Red 13 at all, have we?
Nope. And that was like my staple character in that entire game.
I love that character. His personality was fantastic, and the way he talked, everything was just very smooth and collected. I hope they make him talk.
Yeah.
That would be a bummer if he didn't talk.
Who well, but before we move on, who would you think would be a great voice for that?
For Red 13,
Yeah.
boy, it's really hard to say who would be a good voice for that because we didn't actually hear their voices, and I feel like most of the voices in this game are people that I'm not that familiar with. But like, if I just could do any actor in there, oh boy, I'm just trying to think of somebody that could do. Because I almost hear like when I read the text, I almost hear like an English accent a little bit, just like a very James Bondish kind of.
Funny thing is, I was actually thinking Sean Connery,
Oh
but I know
man,
he's retired, so
that would be pretty cool. I don't know. I'd have to think about that one, but
we'll come back to it later.
we'll come back for sure. GameStop is in the news again this week. It looks like they are closing up to 200 of their quote unquote underperforming stores. Currently, there are upwards of 5,700 stores nationwide, so this isn't. It's like less than 5% or something like that. But apparently, sales are down 14.3% year over year, and they had a $415 million loss for their Q2 report. So things aren't looking great for them, but I feel like people are already carving the name on the grave for them. I feel like they're still a long ways away from having to be really worried about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely in the camp that GameStop is going to be around for a long time.
Yeah,
I mean, for being a retro collector, the fact that GameStop, last I heard, owns something like 40% of the retro games in the wild,
mm-hmm.
that's a huge number. And there was actually supposedly a news story earlier today that I read that one of the stores in Oklahoma is one of their new test locations
Okay.
for their rebranding, and it supposedly looks really, really good.
Rebranding for what? To what?
Well, a lot of the stores that they're closing down some of the stores, but remodeling them for a brand new like relaunch of their brand.
Okay. So it's still going to be GameStop, but it's just going to be.
Yeah, like I think I remember correctly. They said that like the store had been repainted like in a gray color with like wood paneling, so it felt kind of like a retro basement almost.
Okay. Well, what if they went. What if they went the LAN route and started making LAN centers?
Eh, I don't really see that as their wheelhouse. I mean, they're first and foremost they're going to be a game sale store, like a
Mm-hmm.
physical copy. And with the market moving more towards digital, they're going to start moving heavier and heavier into the retro side of things. One of the things in the article said that in the center of the store was a couch and a big TV where people could sit down and play games.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that becoming more and more of a thing.
Like the old
Um,
Funko Land model where you could actually play the game in the store before you bought it.
yep, I could see that coming back. I would actually love something similar to Funko Land to come back.
I never understood why that was a problem or why they stopped that because you're getting people in the store. Well, we don't want people sitting here playing games all day. Why?
Well,
They're in your store.
they're in your store, but when you have people come in and play all day and they're not buying anything, then they're
Right.
just loitering.
There's got to be ways around it.
From a business standpoint, it's a bad thing.
Well, can't you do what land centers do and start charging by the hour, giving them credit.
I'm almost wondering if they don't start making some of these like retro centers, but then some of their other stores they kind of rebrand them, but move more into the esports league,
Mm-hmm.
like having like Friday night tournaments, like
That's what I'm
retro,
saying.
like
But doing it for retro games,
well
not
not
the
just
current stuff.
not just retro. For some reason, I've got retro on the brain because I'm a retro guy, but more like an esports league. Like, oh, on this Friday we're doing StarCraft. On this Friday we're doing Counter Strike. On this Friday we're doing Fortnite.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They could go that direction because I feel like, I mean, we after talking to those open world guys, they're hitting the iron while it's hot, and they could be on the cusp of something. But that would make me nervous for them because I know those guys personally now. If GameStop starts getting in the business, they've got the brand recognition already. Are people going to start going to a GameStop land site instead of the local one, the quote unquote mom and pop shop?
Yeah, but keep in mind if you're actually going to start doing land sites at some of these GameStops, that's going to take up a lot of your store.
It's true, but they could get bigger stores.
Well, you look at almost every GameStop out there; they're kind of
Very
small,
narrow.
compact.
Yeah.
Like this is what we do. So
Well, my hope is that people don't lose jobs. So we've got some people in our community that work at GameStop. So I never want to applaud or champion GameStop going down. I don't shop there nearly as much as I used to, but I'm not hoping they go out of business or anything like that. That's just not cool. So
yeah, I mean, I stop in my local GameStop at least once a week. So
oh, okay.
I may not like everything that goes on in the store, but I still support them.
Fair enough. All right, I want to talk about this Nintendo new experience. We talked briefly about this last week because we just saw this ring. Remember the video that just had these people holding a ring and doing all these goofy things with it in their living room with a bunch of people. Well, it's been announced. It's officially called Ring Fit, and it's basically an exercise game that combines fitness with a turn-based RPG. Yes, you heard that correctly. You will be maneuvering through towns. You'll be having full-on battles, turn-based battles against enemies. But here's the kicker: you will never have to press a single button during gameplay on the Joy-Cons. You slide the Joy-Con, one goes into the ring itself, which is what, a little bit bigger than a frisbee, would you say? But
It's about the size of a steering wheel.
there you go. And then there's a leg strap that obviously straps your leg. You slip in the other Joy-Con. And to move in the game, you literally jog in place. And then while you're holding the ring, like up in front of you, and if you want to jump, you press the ring down, and you steer yourself by moving the ring in whatever directions. And then the battles are the interesting part because you have to do certain exercises to execute, attacks or magic spells or whatever. And the enemies, tell me if I'm wrong, they were color coded. So there's a certain type of attack that is like a rock, paper, scissors aspect, but you have to do a certain type of exercise in order to activate that. So it's all about fitness. This is like working your way through these levels, doing fitness type things. It's kind of like an extension of, what was it, Wii Fit, the balance board that they had back in the day. What'd you think?
I'm going to applaud Nintendo for attempting to make a new thing, but I'm not super interested.
I'm not either. I mean, it looks really silly, and can we talk about did you watch the video, by the way?
The most confusing video of people staring at a TV doing like exercises and then
No, I'm talking about the second one where there's actually a man and a woman that are talking to the camera explaining what this is, what I just explained.
Oh no, I didn't see that one yet. I just keep going back to the one where it's like show a city's name and people playing this game, and
No,
I'm confused.
No. You need to, when we're done with this recording, you need to go watch that video. It is borderline creepy. These two,
oh, no.
And I'm not trying to pick on these two actors. They did what Nintendo paid them to do. But I don't know how to explain it. I feel like you're watching a propaganda video for when the robots take over the planet, and they're trying to convince you how much of a good idea it is to join the collective.
Oh no. I'm mildly scared now.
It's really strange, man.
For me, this isn't that far out of Nintendo's wheelhouse
No, it's what Nintendo does.
because they've always made these weird peripherals. I
Mhm.
mean, Power Glove, Laser Active, the Fit Board.
I mean, you're gonna have to get one for your collection because I feel like these aren't gonna
Don't
sell very
remind
well.
me, but I have a feeling that if I wait a year, this will be garage sale fodder.
You think so?
Yeah.
You need a sealed one, man.
A couple of my Nintendo peripherals that are sealed were garage sale fodder.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the problem is parents buy it for their kids and then they're like, yep, this wasn't what we thought it was. So,
Yeah. It's if I'm gonna play a exercise type game, I would rather just play like Dance Central. That game is genuinely fun. This doesn't look that fun to me.
I really
I
miss Dance Central on the Kinect.
So do I. When that first came out, man, I used to bring that to parties, and people would just have a blast watching each other do that. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I want to talk about very briefly. Apple announced their new service that's going to have streaming games on it for $5 a month. Did you watch this at all?
Yeah, I did. And it feels like another round of Google Stadia, but on the cheap.
Oh, Google Stadia. This is cell phone games. This isn't.
I know. That's what I'm
console
saying.
games.
On the cheap. They're like, hey, 99-cent games. You want to play them? Pay us money.
Well, you can have 100 of them, over 100 of them for $5 a month, and we're talking a little bit more. I mean, I'm not going to say that all 100 of them are going to be top quality. I haven't played them. I don't know all what's on there, but as an example, I played a game at E3 called Sayonara Wild Hearts, and that's going to be on Apple. That's a fun little game. It's a game that will work very well on a cell phone. When I was playing it on the Switch, I felt like it was designed. It was a cell phone that they just slapped onto a Switch, but that's one that I would like to play. But I don't know if I'd rather play it on there or play it on my Switch. So
Yeah, I can understand that too. Like if it's on like a Switch or Xbox or another one, I'd rather play it on an actual console because I can almost guarantee you 85% of the games that are released with that service are going to be shovelware.
that's kind of what I figured as well. And I feel like when it comes to cell phone games, I don't really play deep experiences on my cell phone. I play my grindy games, my tappy games. You
I
know
was
what I
about
mean?
to say, don't you dare say its name.
No, I'm not gonna say its name. I get yelled at when I bring that up. I'm still playing it, by the way.
Oh no.
We need help over there because I feel like people are dropping off and it's getting harder and harder to take out some enemies. But I'm don't even know why I'm playing it anymore. I don't know what I'm shooting for.
The
But I
bigger
keep
question
going
is why aren't you playing Gears Pop with me?
because I did not like that game. I just straight up did not like it.
Well, to each his own.
Yeah.
I still play it.
But I'm excited to see what these games are. I've heard some developers that had started developing their games for other consoles or platforms are bringing them to this Apple service. $5, man. I don't know how long I want to pay that, but I got a stupid question for you because I've been an Apple guy for a long time. Is this something that's only available on iPhone, or can you access this on a Droid?
I haven't seen anything about it on a Droid.
Okay.
So, and that's the other thing is I am firmly in the camp of a Droid guy. I love my Droid. I'm not gonna give it up for an Apple product.
No, I think you wouldn't. I mean, I'm the same way. I wouldn't give up my Apple for a Droid just to have a Droid product. And I'm not knocking Droid. It's just I'm comfortable with Apple. You know what I mean? That's what I've been
Yep.
using for years. I don't want to have to relearn. Anytime I pick up my wife's phone and try to like get to her messages or something for her, I'm like, where do I go? It's like foreign to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like my partner handed me her Apple phone the other day,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, "Where's the internet?"
It's kind of crazy how used you get to it, but it's also a sad commentary on how much I'm on my phone and I know exactly where everything is. But anyway, that's it for the news. Let's go ahead and jump into thanking our Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. You guys are helping us pay for the show and do some giveaways for our community. What episodes are available for our listeners right now, Chris?
A lot. We have a ton of episodes in our backlog. Most recently, Zelda games, our volume 1 that we did, playing through the first 3 Zelda games in the series. We also did a Break the Seal on Horizon Zero Dawn. Most recently, Scott, myself, and Nate got together and played some educational games, which we will be recording an episode on soon.
I love how I got stuck playing the one that was like the preschool one. You guys played the ones that were actually a game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you played a couple other ones with us.
Yeah,
So-
I did. I gotta get caught up though. There's a bunch I didn't get to stick around for the whole thing. So
Yep, we got a few more to play, and then we're also working on our Final Fantasy episode with a special guest. So not spoiling anything there. Trying to get that one off the ground. So we're just super busy with R2V2 at the moment, and some things have kind of gotten pushed back, but I promise they're coming soon.
very cool. And if those episodes sound interesting to you at all, you can head over to patreon.com/thegocast. If you sign up for $3 a month, you get access to those episodes as well as all of our back catalog. We got lots and lots of great episodes in there that you won't want to miss. With that, let's go ahead and jump into our From the Outside In topic. All right, got a couple more sponsors to thank. Very quickly, Octane Inner Lounge over at 124 North Main Street in Rockford. They signed up as a sponsor. Fantastic restaurant, great food, great beer selection. I highly recommend them. Also, I want to say thank you to the city of Rockford, specifically the Rockford Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. They sponsored us and helped us with a grant to help get this thing off the ground. We really do appreciate that. Speaking of R2V2, it's less than a week away, and in honor of our special guests, who are all voice actors in games, we thought it was a perfect opportunity to discuss our favorite performances in games. So before we get into the specific actors, I want to know, CB, how important is quality voice acting to you? I mean, can a performance make or break a game for you? I mean, is there a game that's got subpar talent in it that would affect your enjoyment of it? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm firmly in the camp of I grew up in an era where voice acting wasn't a thing in games. And then
The
when
last
it was
Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
Oh my god. But like growing up playing games where you had to read the text boxes and then fill in voices
In your head.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of put these voices in your head, and then Final Fantasy VII being one of them. As time went on, when voices started being incorporated into games, it added a whole new depth and level to games. I mean, it took it out of that realm of like this is something nerdy into an actual art form.
Right.
Where these stories are being incorporated and you have genuine emotion being attached to something.
What was the first game you remember having actual full-on voice acting for the whole thing, not just like during a cutscene?
Duke Nukem.
Oh, is that the whole game?
Majority of it.
The first one that comes to mind for me was Final Fantasy X. I have to assume there's plenty more before that.
Oh yeah, there's quite a few before that. But
like the whole game, we're not just talking like just a phrase here and there. But like I guess even Final Fantasy X wasn't every single line of dialogue, right?
No, it wasn't. There was still a lot of text box, but I think that was definitely a product of its time because there was only so much that you could fit on a disc.
Right.
So, I mean, granted, like the one of the first games that I really remember was Duke Nukem for having a lot of dialogue. I mean, granted, they were like little quips or like grunts and noises.
I've got balls of steel.
Yeah, shout out to my boy John.
I can't do it as well as Zach can. He actually has a Duke Nukem impression down pretty well.
Yes, he does. But that was really the beginning of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time has progressed and moved on, especially into like the current generation where we have games where every line of dialogue is spoken.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely become something that like I very much cherish in games.
Yeah.
Especially with like story crafting and the world crafting. the fact that there's been the fact that even like background voices, people just walking down the streets in open world games have been given voices.
Yeah.
It adds just that much more depth and detail into a game.
Well, I'm such a big story guy when it comes to games anyway. And in these games, the actors are the ones basically telling the story, so it's vital that their performances are solid. It's gonna ruin my experience if they're not there. I mean, if the dialogue is awful, it completely takes me out of it, and I focus on the fact that the dialogue is awful instead of enjoying the story for what it could be.
Oh, most definitely. One that comes immediately to mind for subpar voice acting is the story mode in the new NBA 2K20. Have you
What
seen Have you seen some
I've
of
seen
this?
it, but isn't there a lot of prolific real life actors in that?
Well, there's a lot of real life actors, but then some of the generic um, basketball players that are in the game who are
Right.
real life basketball players. Like it feels like they're just straight reading like copy without any emotion. It's like, you played this game real good today, son. Wow, that was an amazing shot.
I haven't heard that. But do
Oh
you really
man.
expect great dialogue in an NBA game though?
Yeah, but if you're gonna have like some voice acting in there, man, I hope you're producing a little better than that.
Right. Can't imagine how expensive and how time consuming it would be to get that much quality for that big of a game.
Well, it's understandable, but you look at there are uh basketball players or professional sports players, like athletes out there, who are very well spoken. Those would have been the ones that I would have been like, hey, let's get these guys instead of like this guy who, like, when you watch them do their TV interviews, they're like, we played a good game today. It was great.
It's up by 110%. Diablos are number one.
Yeah. San Dimas High School football rules. Yeah.
Well, let's go into one more point I got. In a lot of cases, it might not even be the actors themselves. It could be the writing.
Yeah.
Sometimes the writing is bad. But if the actor is good, that can sometimes save it as well. You never know. So, but I want to hear what some of your most memorable performances in video games are that affected you emotionally, maybe added to your experience more than most other games. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, Zach could not be here, and he had quite a list he was planning to share, and he went ahead and shared them in here. So I want to for you guys to be able to hear what he had. It should come as no surprise that he said Michael Ironside as Sam Fisher. I knew right away that was going to be on his list. No surprise. Mark Hamill as Joker. As far as I'm concerned, Mark Hamill is the Joker. Like, he's the quintessential Joker. I like him even. I think I like him even better than Heath Ledger's. Honestly, I mean, I know he's not actually acting it; he's just doing the voice, but
Hey,
he's just
voice
great.
acting is still acting.
He also put down Laura Bailey, who's basically she's the female voice actress out there right now in terms of just she's in a lot of games you didn't know. She plays Kaine in Nier. She plays Mary Jane Watson in Spider-Man, Kate Diaz in Gears 5, and she's going to even be playing Black Widow in the Avengers game. So she's getting lots of work. He's a big fan of hers. Akira Buckland, who plays 2B, and Kyle McCarley as 9S. Those are the two characters from Nier Automata. More from Nier, Jameson Price as Nier. Tara Platt as Zero. She also played Yuri Watanabe, Spider-Man. And then he said, and just to fill the cliche, Yuri Lowenthal as the definitive Spider-Man. He was actually saying before this episode, we were chatting a little bit about how to him, Yuri Lowenthal is Spider-Man. He said that he even reads the comic books and hears Yuri Lowenthal's voice in his head, which I thought was pretty cool. So those were Zach's picks. CB, what do you have?
Well, I mean, for me, there's like the definitive performances. Uh, Mark Hamill as Joker and other things that he's been in. Kevin Conroy, to me, is my favorite Batman ever.
He's my favorite Batman in video games for sure.
Oh, even just outside of video games, because he was the voice in the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You like him better than Michael Keaton?
yes, bar
Really?
none.
You're gonna make some people angry.
Don't care. Our producer is giving me hand gestures. But then there's the smaller ones that I've really grown to appreciate. Michael Goff, who more recently did Clayton Carmine in Gears 5, but he's done all the Carmines.
Oh, it's the same character that plays all the Carmines?
Same guy plays all the Carmines. But for me, he will always be that infamous voice of Deckard Cain from Diablo.
From Diablo?
Yes.
And that was the same guy.
Yep, same guy. John DiMaggio, Marcus Phoenix.
Yep.
So that's always a great one for me.
See, the thing is with that is I've never watched Futurama, but I've seen commercials with Bender in it, and so whenever I hear him play Bender, I hear Marcus Phoenix, and when I hear Marcus Phoenix, I think Bender. I mean, I know they don't sound exactly the same, but you can tell it's the same dude. So I almost get those mixed up sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then I hear like Tara Strong, who does Harley Quinn.
Right.
I hear some of her comic book stuff not comic book, but animated TV show stuff come out, like from Rugrats.
Gotcha.
But I will always love like Mark Hamill and Yuri Lowenthal. I agree is the definitive Spider-Man. But Tom Holland's a close second for me.
Wow.
Yeah, I really like Tom Holland in that role. But John St. John, I love Duke Nukem. I grew up on it, so that is always a big one. But for me, one of the greatest ones, and I swear to God, when the newest movie came, when they rebooted the franchise with Michael Bay, Transformers, Peter Cullen's voice, that voice is so iconic to me that when Michael Bay first rebooted it and they're like, oh yeah, we brought back Peter Cullen, hearing his voice for the first time in the live action movies actually made me cry.
Oh wow. Because of nostalgia?
The nostalgia is there, and the fact that they actually got him to come back. And then the fact that he's also done that voice in the video games.
Yes, he has.
So I grew up on Transformers, and that voice is just so iconic to me.
That's good, man. Is that all you got?
Yeah.
I got a few as well too. I couldn't pick just one actor or actress from this game, so I'm just gonna say everybody that was in Portal 2. Every voice in that game was phenomenal. Yep. Ellen McLean as GLaDOS. I mean, she was in the first one too, but the way that she delivers those lines with this deadpan, and granted her voice is modulated quite a bit, but she delivers them so well, where she's being sarcastic, but just coming down on you and being as rude as possible. I loved it. Wheatley, played by Stephen Merchant, was fantastic. It just hilarious. Everything just felt right. And even J.K. Simmons.
Yep.
Who plays Cave Johnson. I loved roaming those hallways, just listening to him complain and go off on these rants and tangents. That whole like when life gives you lemons speech is iconic. I want some kind of poster with something about life giving you lemons, because I just thought that was fantastic.
There's actually a site that you can actually buy the Cave Johnson portrait that you see in the hallways. Every time I hear that though, I think the moon rocks are pure poison. Yep.
Oh, the moon. That final shot of the game was so good. In space. There's so many good lines in that movie. How are you doing? Because I'm a potato. Just so good. I love Portal 2. I haven't played that one in about a year. I need to go back and just replay it again. It's just so much fun. The music, but the voice acting really sold me on that, because it takes a lot for me to laugh at a game. I know we're going to talk about Borderlands here in a minute. But Portal 2 genuinely made me laugh multiple times, even on multiple playthroughs.
Okay, that's actually a very good point, because I feel Portal 2 without the voice acting would be a bland, generic game.
Possibly. I mean, there are moments in the game where there's no voices. I still think the puzzles would work.
But it would just feel like a generic puzzle game.
Maybe. I think that's one where the story actually carries the puzzles and the acting.
But if it was just a game, no voice acting, no story.
Yeah.
Like, and then okay, so think about that game as no voice acting, no story.
Right.
It's just generic puzzle game. Okay, now add in story, but just text boxes.
Wouldn't be the same.
It's a little interesting. Now think of the game with voice acting. That game becomes phenomenal.
Yeah. So that's a prime example of the voice acting that really sells that game.
Yep.
Good call. My next one is, if I can pull it up here, because my Courtney Draper as Elizabeth in BioShock Infinite. There's just something about the way she spoke in that game that was beautiful and had this childlike innocence to it. I just adored it. Normally, I hate characters that are companions throughout a game, and you feel like they're always in the way or they're just saying stuff that are annoying. She was just genuinely fun to listen to, and I loved seeing her growth in that little bit of story that we saw in her life, which is really cool. So, I'm going to go with another one for BioShock, which is Armin Shimerman as Andrew Ryan in BioShock. That opening monologue when you are in the bathysphere being introduced to what Rapture is. And he has this whole speech about, no, it belongs to God. No, it belongs to the poor. And I can still hear it in my head. Like I almost have it memorized. And then you come across that and he says, I gave the world rapture. And the way he says it is so iconic. And then you talk to him throughout the game as well, and up until the end in the infamous line, would you kindly?
Yep.
And just the way he says it, and just gets more and more intense.
I actually just had to look up the voice actor for that because as soon as you said BioShock, I was like, oh man, I completely forgot about the Andrew Ryan performance.
Yeah, yeah. Also, if you've beaten BioShock Infinite, Courtney Draper as Elizabeth in the ending credits of that game, I don't want to give away what happens. It's not really a story beat, but it's something that was a fun surprise that I was not expecting. It almost has very little to do with the game, but it's a neat little nugget they give you in the credits of that game that got me choked up. Legit got me choked up, and I went back and watched it multiple times, and just fascinating. And Troy Baker in that game was great too, but Elizabeth was definitely a standout for me for sure. Roger Craig Smith as Ezio Auditore in the Assassin's Creed games. I just absolutely loved what he did, and I'm a little biased because I got to talk to him on the show and chat a little bit, but I loved Assassin's Creed 2 and just what he brought to that role, where he made and that character grew as well, because he started with Assassin's Creed 2, worked into Brotherhood, and what was the third one?
Revelations,
which was okay, but by the time you get to Revelations, he's no longer this young man that's sleeping around and being, this dirty. I mean, he was a man whore. I mean, it really was. And then by the time you get to Revelations, he's chiseled and he's got this beard and he's just aged and seasoned a little bit. But the voice still sounds like him. I just love what Roger Craig Smith did with that role, and one of my favorite games too. So that doesn't help. That doesn't hurt either. The last one I got is Logan Cunningham, who plays the narrator in the game Bastion. Which, have you played
Yep.
Bastion?
Yes, I have.
Oh man, I could listen to Logan Cunningham read the phone book. The way that he just narrates everything that you're doing. The kid just kind of raged for a while, and smooth as butter. And some of that is complemented by the fantastic music in that game, especially in the opening sequences. I never got tired of a narrator telling me what I was doing in a game. He could have read everything to me that entire game, and I would have not had a problem with it. Definitely a favorite for me.
Yeah.
All right, so now that you've heard our favorites, we're going to see what our Gaming Outsider community thought. Again, Zach unfortunately could not be here, But CB and I are going to kind of ping pong back and forth and read some of our favorites from the community. Why don't you start?
Well, first off, Michael Bonovich is in the same camp as me.
Yeah.
He wanted to tell us that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill are the definitive Batman and Joker. No one else could have voiced Nathan Drake from Uncharted like Nolan North has done. And the award for the voice that could read the phone book to me would be Simon Templeman, the voice behind Kane in the Legacy of Kane games. This one kind of shocked me because I forgot for the longest time about the Legacy of Kane series.
Right.
And I actually just found a copy of the Legacy of Kane game where you play Raziel.
I have not played Legacy of Kane.
Soul Reaver.
Soul Reaver?
Yeah. That one I remember playing that a lot as a kid. But yeah, I love those games, but man, Michael, you are completely right. For me, Kevin Conroy, best Batman.
Yeah.
I don't care what our producer says. And Mark Hamill, that just for me, every time I see the Joker or even think of the Joker, I hear that just laugh that he created. I actually remember recently watching a interview where he openly talked about how he had so many different laughs for the Joker, depending on the Joker's mood, even. So, just great voice work. And the fact that it carried over into the Arkham series so well.
Yeah, good call. I got to remember how to pronounce this guy's name. This is one that Zach picked. It is Lalamer Waffle, I believe is how you pronounce it. He says, for me, it's definitely Ray Chase in Final Fantasy 15. That final campfire scene is just so damn well acted. The end of that game had me crying like a baby, and it was the voice acting that drove that home. But all the boys are fantastic. Also, if Zach doesn't bring it up, since this is his territory, but Kyle McCarley as 9S is a truly passionate experience if I've ever heard one. And I think we mentioned that in his picks as well, too. I've got one from Amanda Clemens who says Yuri Lowenthal in lots of things like Bayonetta. And I didn't know he was in Bayonetta. Was he in Bayonetta?
I don't know.
That's new to me. And Persona and Fire Emblem, but recently a Spider-Man where he spent so much time talking to Yuri Watanabe because it had to be strange saying his own name to someone else for hours and hours. Kind of a good point.
Yeah. Jordan Derringer High. Melissa Hutchinson for me. Her voice acting in every Telltale game she was in is great. Obviously, Clementine takes the cake. But as a person, she is just the nicest celebrity I've ever had the pleasure to meet. Can't wait to meet her again at R2V2. Man, I'm completely with you. I'm legitimately excited to meet all three of them. Just between Melissa and Sissy and Courtney. For me, I'm a little biased towards Sissy just because Firewatch. I think that was like one of the first story-driven games with the voice acting where I just fell in love listening to the story.
Yeah, I almost feel like I purposely didn't mention any of them because they're coming to our show and I didn't want to feel like I was a little biased, but I love everything that they do. And Jordan's completely right. I've actually been interacting with Melissa, in preparation for this show, and she is just the sweetest, kindest woman. All three of them really have been just super nice to me. But Melissa it just seems like one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And I can't wait for everybody to meet her because she's just a cool person.
I'll openly admit I want a Clementine hat for my room.
I'll bet you do, man.
I do.
I'll bet you do.
I really do.
Why don't you read Zach's next one?
So TJ Kitsune wanted to let us know. Love Crispin Freeman's work. Been listening to him as Kaido in Judgment recently. He's got a unique, deep tone, and he tends to play a lot of badass characters. Leslie Wilkerson is also amazing. Got to hang with her twice at 2 different conventions. Got her to play Tekken Tag with me. She also voiced Sarah in Virtua Fighter and Joy in Shenmue 2.
Very cool. By the way, I believe it's pronounced Kitsune. I actually met him up at Open World Gaming when we were there for opening night. You missed out. You got there so late because you were up bar hopping.
I know, man, but sometimes you gotta go out and do anniversary things.
Yeah, it happens. I got one from Sean Coates who says AJ Locascio in Back to the Future, the Telltale game, is Marty. The guy does an absolute spot-on impression of Michael J. Fox. Also, while looking him up, he apparently does voices for any character played by Chris Pratt in video games whenever it isn't Chris Pratt doing the role himself. I thought this was a good call. I didn't think of it until he said it, but his Marty impression, I would have believed it was Michael J. Fox if you hadn't told me. It's that good.
I actually didn't even realize that. It's not Christopher Lloyd that plays Doc in the Telltale games, is it?
I don't believe so.
Because that's a pretty close one there too.
If it's not him, I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of a good voice actor is being able to mimic someone that well.
It is Christopher Lloyd.
It is.
Yes. So it sounded really a lot like Christopher Lloyd.
Like I said, for me, I was like, man, that was a pretty spot on. So
they also got Thomas F. Wilson to come in and actually play Biff. So, yeah. Anyway, you were up. Got a couple more?
Yep. Aaron Peterson. To be perfectly honest, Marcus Phoenix, Nathan Drake, and Joker/Batman are the only game voices that I've ever truly felt special to me. So those three. So Mark Hamill, Kevin Conroy, John DiMaggio, and Nolan North.
Yeah. And Nathan Drake. It's funny that's the first time he's mentioned that, but he is that character. Just straight up is that character. Love it. One more. This one comes from Alan Sheck. He says, I don't know if this competes with the compelling performances listed on this post, but I have to say, Halo multiplayer would not be what it is without Jeff. Is it Steitzer? Jeff Steitzer commenting, and he attached a little video of him. If you've ever played Halo, I don't play a lot of Halo multiplayer, but yeah, he's the guy that says that stuff in between. Apparently, there's a Dick Cheney one where like if you kill your own teammate, you get the Cheney ballistic or something like that. It's pretty funny.
It's Cheney Mania.
Cheney Mania, is that what it is?
Yep.
I thought that was hilarious. I've never played a lot of Halo, but that's what he's most known for. He was listing off in the video a lot of other things he had done. But he's like, hey, you probably recognize me as this, and he looks nothing like his voice does.
No,
which is
not.
Kind of crazy to me. So, well, that was a fun topic. I thanks so much everybody that wrote in on that one. If you'd like to meet somebody that actually does this kind of work, please come out to R2V2. You can meet Melissa, Courtney, and Sissy. They're genuinely wonderful people, and have a chance to get a picture with them, get something signed. Be sure to make that out. Want to give a shout out to, we have one new Facebook member this week. Rachel O'Keefe Mack joined the group, and it turns out that she's actually a developer. So I've been talking to her. She has made an adventure game, a 3D point-and-click adventure game that we may be talking to her in the near future. So welcome to the group. I hope you're finding some cool people to chat with. And also, I got an iTunes review. I got one from a student, man.
It's very cute.
This comes from Maheen. He was a student in my classroom, not this year, but last year. And he titled the review, "Hey, this is your student." And it's from Maheen the Noob. And he says, "Hello, this is Maheen, your student, and I want to say I love your podcast."
Thanks,
I love
Maheen.
it. Thanks, Maheen. He's a great kid, man. Super smart. I love that kid. So thanks a lot, dude. Hope you're enjoying 5th grade, buddy. Things are heating up for sure. Also, check out our website at thegamingoutsider.com where you can find written reviews. My written review for Hunt Showdown is now available for you to read. I will give you kind of a quick heads up. It's a game that I'm going to recommend for a lot of people, but didn't click for me as well as it did for you, Chris. I know you loved it, but it's weird writing a review that I didn't love to play personally, but I feel like a lot of people need to because I think there's something special there. Read the review to find out why. And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the games we've actually been playing. Got a few more sponsors to thank very quickly. First off, The Hollywood Outsider, my old podcast. They're still going strong over there with a new crew. And you can find them the same place you listen to this podcast, or go to their website, thehollywoodoutsiders.com, if you like movies and TV shows and all that kind of entertainment. Also, Goodwill of Northern Illinois. If you have a Goodwill near you, this is a great place for you to go try to find those retro games. You'd be surprised what kind of stuff gets dropped off there, and you'll want to stop there. And speaking of retro games, Disc Replay of Rockford, located at 6085 East State Street in Rockford. You can also go to discreplay.com/Rockford. They have pretty much anything that you can think of available to purchase there when it comes to media, movies. I think they even got CDs and records, video games, classic consoles, current consoles. And you can also buy tickets for R2V2 at the store there as well if you'd like. Lastly, or last couple here, In Tandem Financial. If you need some help with your finances, Chad DeMar is a financial services professional. I actually use him personally. Highly recommend him. You're going to want to talk to him. He will get you on the straight and narrow. You can follow him at intandemfinancial.com. And then lastly, Notebook Entertainment. Wyatt and his partner over there create a show called The Dedersons and also a short series called F My Life. And you can find all their work at notebookmovies.com. Now, normally this is the part of the show where I hand it off to Zach and have him tell us what games are coming out this week. Unfortunately, he, like I said, couldn't be here, but I'm going to run through these very quickly. First off, Jet Cave Adventures on the Switch releases on September 17th. The Somnium Files on PC, PS4, and Switch on September 17th as well. Rebel Cops on pretty much everything, September 17th. Devil's Hunt on PC, September 17th. Real Fishing Road Trip Adventure on PS4 and Switch on the 17th. I played that one. Was not a big fan. Played it at E3. I've never been to a demo where somebody was more uninterested in selling me their game as I did for that game. And it doesn't help that it was a fishing game too. Let's see. Trailmakers on PC and Xbox One, September 18th. Police Stories on everything, September 19th. Overland on everything, September 19th. Sayonara Wild Hearts. Go back and listen to our E3 episode. I like that game. It's just a little kind of an indie title, but it's worth playing, and it's very, very quirky. Truck Driver on PS4 and Xbox One on the 19th. Also hits PC on November 11th. Mudozione on PC and PS4, September 19th. Untitled Goose Game on Mac, PC, and Switch on the 20th. Skybolt Zack on PC and Switch on the 20th. The Sojourn on PC, PS4, Xbox One on September 20th. Reign of Reflections on PC on September 20th. And the one I'm most interested in for sure, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, the remake or remaster, whatever you want to call it, comes out on Switch on September 20th. Any of these interest you, CB?
There's a couple. I mean, of course I'm going to play Untitled Goose Game.
Are you being facetious or not? I can't tell.
No, I actually might check that one out. The Sojourn to me looks super beautiful.
It does look pretty.
I really want to play that. But other than that, I think like Overland was like one of the ones that really kind of caught my eye. So I'm gonna give them a whirl. We'll see what I can find through all those.
I will not, because I still have Control. I still have Borderlands, and now Zelda's coming out, so I'm done for a while.
Yeah, you are.
Officially. Well, speaking of Borderlands, let's go ahead and talk about that, because you and I sat down to play it, and just fair warning, we did not play this a ton. We wanted to get a little bit in just so that we could chat about it briefly, but we're gonna really spend, after R2V2 time, putting in more time with it, but especially once we get Zach in there. And plus, we were having some technical difficulties. I think it was on my end. I think I'm having internet troubles at my house again, because we couldn't talk to each other, which was interesting. But they've got like a ping system built into Borderlands 3 this time around, and I was using that to try to get your attention a couple times, and it worked.
Yep,
we were able to like communicate pretty well. So if I put a marker right in front of me, this was like, hey, I'm checking my inventory. Just wait a minute. Yep. And you understood that. I just love that we have a language. So what are your early impressions of the game itself? Because this is not, people aren't saying a lot of nice things about it.
Well, for me, this is actually kind of like my true first Borderlands experience.
What?
I didn't play 1 really, and 2 I tried to play, but I was kind of late to the party on those. And what kind of sold me on this is the fact that you've always been like, hey man, like this is like one of the multiplayer experiences. Like this game really shines when you play with another person.
Right.
So actually playing with you, like I was having fun running and gunning around. And then when you like dropped out I was just like, yeah, it's a game.
Yeah, because my internet completely failed, and then you were playing by yourself, and it's like a completely different experience when you're not playing with a buddy, right?
Yes, yes, it really
It it,
is.
it feels lonely, and not in the good isolation kind of way, like a Metroid or something like that, where you kind of bask in the emptiness. It's just not fun.
No, no, it's not. And for, I, I'm trying to enjoy this game. Don't get me wrong.
Don't play it by
There's
yourself then.
no, I don't plan on it. But there's something that's still kind of a little off-putting for me about the visual style for this game.
Okay,
I
the
don't.
cell shaded.
There's just something about it that just doesn't sit right with me, and it could be something like kind of that uncanny valley feel, where it's like, oh, there's something that just doesn't look right, and it just kind of is off-putting for me. Um, I don't remember in Borderlands 2 if there was the items that you could gain to make your character look different,
Right.
but I think within like 5 minutes I found one of those in this game. I have the Marcus bobblehead,
Oh, nice.
so I have like the head of my character is Marcus now.
There
But
were heads that you had in Borderlands 2 for sure. I remember that. I think everything else was weapons based. I could be wrong though. What I like is that I feel like the weapons themselves have been more streamlined in terms of swapping them out. It's very easy to mark your favorites, mark which ones you want to trash. I feel like when you pick a weapon, now when you select a weapon to compare it to everything else, it will only show you weapons that you can swap it out with, which is nice because you don't have to like cycle through everything and like sort everything in your mind. So that feels a little bit easier. Um, I don't remember Borderlands 2 starting out and the enemies feeling so bullet spongy. I feel like I'm not finding any weapons that are doing any more damage. I don't understand the numbers yet. I feel like there's something I'm missing because each weapon has like 4 or 5 different stats on it, but then it has like an overall number on it,
yes,
which in my mind that should just be my go-to number. But I'm getting things that are like over 100, which I know it's very early on, and they're not doing any more damage. I'm or the reloads are very very poor. So again, it's kind of the product of a game like this where your weapons are never going to be really good at the beginning of a game. You know, that's just the nature of a looter shooter.
yeah,
So
I know I definitely had some issues with that first group of skags.
yeah, you because when I popped in the game, you were trying to take all of them on yourself,
Yeah,
and
there was a
just
lot. So
I feel like I'm just doing a lot of circling and strafing and firing
yeah,
as of at least to start out with.
I'm definitely waiting to find a nice big meaty gun in this game
Uh huh.
and just go to town with it,
Right.
because everything that I've found so far, I feel like I'm throwing ping pong balls at a rock monster.
Yeah. Looking forward to and I haven't found a good sniper rifle yet because when I played Borderlands 2, I was all you know me, man. I'm all about the sniper rifle while you go in with the tank, and
Yep.
I'm not finding really good ones. The ones that I find, like the scope, is very hard to use because you don't see just your crosshairs. Now you actually see the scope itself as well, which makes it really hard to focus on what you're supposed to hit. So that's annoying. And I feel like we're being negative. I was still having a really good time playing with you.
Yes.
Uh,
I had fun playing it, and there are, like I said, the view and everything. I don't like the aim down the sights as well on some of these guns
right.
in a game. Like I was like, yeah, this is not something I'm overly a fan of. So
And Claptrap definitely sounds different. We know he's different, obviously, because the different actor playing it, but it didn't sound that different on like the trailers and stuff. In the game, it sounds off to me, and I feel like they're really pushing the envelope with him being this character that annoys certain people like Zach on this show. I'm not finding him as charming as he was in the last 2 games. A little bit more annoying.
yeah, I can't really comment on that just because I don't have as much experience in the other
Right.
two. But Yeah, he definitely comes across as something I just want to shut up.
Yeah, well, thankfully, at least in the previous games, you didn't have him a ton. It was more or less like either to introduce a mission, or there were a couple missions where he was involved that he'd tag along, but he's not in it throughout. So I wouldn't worry too much. Did you mess with the alternate fire at all on the weapons?
Yes. The alternate fire on the starting pistol was sweet.
Yeah, because it was like a fully automatic pistol for me with its standard fire. What did it do with the alternate?
The alternate was almost like a mini grenade, like a
Nice.
little rocket launcher. So,
Yeah. So every single weapon has an alternate fire, which is interesting. And what character did you play as? You played as
uh, Zane,
Zane, and I played as I can't remember the girl's name. Not the
Maze,
siren, but no, is it May? Mose.
Mose.
Mose. Yeah, I played as Mose. I have not unlocked her ability yet because I think she has like a giant bear or something. I have not figured out how to unlock that yet. And I'm at like level 6 or something.
You have to spend points.
Do you? I just gotta keep going.
Well, no, like you
So
should be able to unlock something by now because I've unlocked Zane's where he
yeah,
drops that little drone.
yeah. How does that work?
I'm not very good with it yet.
Oh, okay.
So I like the voice acting on him. It's pretty comical. So
I like the voice acting in general in this game. I know it's over the top and silly, and it annoys some people, but I enjoy it. When you come across these enemies that are just ridiculous, absurd.
the children of the vault.
Yes, it's like a cult that's going on now. I'm excited to jump back in. I'm like I said, I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because we've barely scratched the surface, especially for the size of a game like this. I'm trying to think of some other differences though before we move on. I know that there's certain places like we're on a mission where we're collecting all these pieces for Claptrap, like to replace his antenna. And in order to access certain areas, you have to jump from a high place and basically ground pound to open up a door. That's new. That was never there before. The vehicles, obviously Scooter's not around anymore, but we got
L.
what's her name? Ellie, and the vehicles control just fine. I feel like that's the way to go when you're in the open world, just to get around because your guns are more powerful than whatever guns you start with. So, looking forward to jumping back into it. I've just taken a piece off of it, and that's about it. So, anything else you want to say before we move on?
Not man, we've just about covered it. I
Okay.
just want to delve deeper into it with a group.
Yeah. Well, and we talked to Zach. I told Zach, hey Zach, I want to have something new to talk about on the show. Are you okay if CB and I just jump in and kind of scratch the surface, and then we'll wait for you? So once he gets a stable internet connection, we'll definitely be playing that game as well. All right, we got one other game I want to review for you, and to do that, I'm going to bring in one of our special guests from the community. Rel, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. If only the baby would stop crying.
Yeah, it's how old is he now?
He is 6 months.
6 months old. Congratulations, man.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
he's getting up there.
Well, you were here to talk to us about a game that you're reviewing for us called Queen's Wish: The Conqueror. Now, this comes from what's the developer's name?
It's a Spiderweb Software.
Spiderweb Software. So shout out to them for providing you with a copy on this one. But I've never heard of this series. I've never heard of this developer. You've reviewed a couple games for them in the past, and actually reached out and wanted to review this game because you like this series so much. What is it about this series and or the developer that made you want to play Queen's Wish: The Conqueror?
Well, I've been playing Spiderweb's games since probably I was 14 years old. I started back when they first developed the Exile series, which later got remade into the Avernum series, which later got remade again into the Avernum series, and they basically keep remaking their games for more modern hardware, and occasionally start new series. And so Queen's Wish is their latest and newest game in a brand new world that is not of the Avernum universe or the Geneforge universe. And it's new in a lot of ways, but also brings back some classic systems as well.
Okay, so what style of game is this? Because from the trailer, it looks very, I don't know, Advance Wars or Final Fantasy Tactics-ish a little bit, but with a lot of management built into it as well.
Not at all. It is in fact a turn-based tile RPG, very reminiscent of computer RPGs in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
so basically it's the kind of game where, you can explore a big wide world, go into dungeons, get into combat, very turn-based, kill enemies through whatever means, whether melee or magical. Uh, you can talk to various folks, and the choices that you make in dialogue actually do affect your reputation in the world, and that matters because you have various factions that you need to either deal with diplomatically or violently.
okay, sounds good. And I want the look of the game, because you mentioned you've been playing these games since you were much younger, and it looks like intentionally it almost has that like 90s vibe to it a little bit in the art style. Would
Yeah,
you?
because Spiderweb Software is basically like, I think, one or two dudes. Jeff Vogel is the guy who does most of the work, like the programming and the artwork and the assets and basically everything. It's kind of why the series and pretty much every Spiderweb game doesn't really have any kind of background music at all. It just has sound effects. And so it's very, very stripped down, bare bones, but also very fun if you're into that kind of game.
Is there a lot of management going on with this as well too, or is it just mostly the turn-based RPG aspect you talked about?
So this is actually kind of new because this game introduces resource and fort management, because the basic story behind it is that you are a prince or princess of the Haven Empire. You've basically been a shiftless layabout your entire life. Your mom, the queen, has decided, you know what? It's high time you get out of the house and you get a dang job. So she sends you to one of the colonies that the Empire has lost and says, you conquer it or you don't come home. And so what you have to do is basically communicate with the other factions, bring them back to heal under the control of the Haven Empire. And all the while, you've got to retake various mines, lumber camps, various resource generators that you can then collect those resources and use them to build various like shops and merchants. And it's interesting how it works because you capture multiple forts over the course of the game, and you have to build multiple blacksmiths, like one blacksmith per fort. But the more forts you capture, the more blacksmiths you can build. And the more blacksmiths you build, the better weapons you can buy.
Gotcha. So it's got that the progression aspect of it going with it too.
Yeah. Although it has some pretty severe changes from other games in the Spiderweb library. Most notably, it used to be that if you went into a dungeon, you could, maybe clear half of it, get yourself beaten down, leave, rest up in town, come back, tackle the other half. In this game, you have to go through the entire dungeon in one shot, and if you don't, all the enemies, like if you don't kill the leader, the specific leader character in a hostile area, everything in the dungeon respawns if you leave.
Interesting. That sounds frustrating.
Depends. Like it makes them more challenging because in the old system you could kind of cheese it, because if you ended up having a bad battle, you could just leave, heal up, come back. But now you have to kind of think about it a little bit more strategically. But I can understand why people don't like it, because the other half of the coin is you no longer get experience for killing random mobs. So you can't just kill a few enemies in a dungeon, leave, cause everything to respawn, come back, and just grind. You only get experience from completing major objectives like recapturing a mine, taking a fort, completing a quest, and so on.
It's interesting. I'm getting some Civilization vibes a little bit from hearing you talk about it. And granted, I haven't played Civilization since like the very early games, maybe Civilization Revolution, but it sounds much more role playing aspect,
Well, it
like you
very
mentioned at
much
the top.
is. Yeah, it very much is a role playing type of game, because a big, like, I want to say positive about all of the games in the Spiderweb library is the writing. The dialogue is always very good. It has a tinge of humor. Um, and it can be very. I mean, it's just well written overall. And like I said before, the choices that you make in dialogue affect your reputation as a prince or princess of Haven, and people will react to you depending on your reputation. Like, I had an encounter early on in the game where you go to what is supposedly an abandoned mansion of a particular noble, and I walk up to the gate. The guards say, welcome, welcome to, your refuge from this war-torn land. And you can actually say, hey, great, I'd like to join you. But then you get close and you say, wait a sec, we recognize you, we know exactly who you are, and we've heard of your reputation, we can't let you in.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I have a feeling if I played the game differently, where I was more outspoken against the Haven Empire, I think they might have let me in without a fight.
So does that give you some replayability then to go back and make the decisions based on your reputation?
Yes, because there's actually a number of ways you can play this game, because, like, the main objective is just to get home. You don't necessarily have to conquer the entire colony. You can just rebuild the portal and just go home if you want. And what's more, apparently, this hasn't happened yet, but Jeff Vogel has said that your decisions in this game will directly affect the sequel. So if you're, like, a cruel, bloodthirsty conqueror, that may affect how people see you initially in the inevitable sequel game.
So does this game leave off on a cliffhanger then, or have you got that far yet?
I'm not going to spoil anything.
Okay. Well, as a fan of this specific developer and who's played many of their games for so many years, is this one that you're going to recommend?
I mean, I definitely recommend this to fans of Jeff Vogel's games and Spiderweb in general, with the caveat that, yeah, this game does change a lot of the familiar formula. Like, you can build things now. The you don't you have to clear dungeons in one shot now. You don't get experience from just killing mobs. You have to, or it's better to buy gear rather than just find it in the wilds. There's a lot of, like, little changes and big changes alike that make it different, but the core gameplay behind it, the turn-based combat, the strategic gameplay, it's still very much intact. So I would definitely recommend it to fans of Avernum and Geneforge. I would recommend it to anybody who's looking for very old school 90s CRPGs. The really old stuff like Baldur's Gate and things like that. For people who want something more high end, who want something with a bit more production value, maybe not, but at $20 American, and it has, like, about 30, 40 hours, depending on how many side quests you do. I mean, it's a good value for the buy.
Sounds good. And when and where can everybody watch your video review of this game?
So my review will go live this Friday. That is the 20th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Sounds good, man. Rel, thanks so much for joining us to talk about Queen's Wish: The Conqueror, which is available only on PC. Is that correct?
It's available on PC and Mac, and there's going to be an iOS version coming in late 2019, according to the developers. And if you wouldn't mind a quick plug for one of my other series.
Sure, go for it.
All right, so I am also the creator of Kingdom Hearts 3 Abridged. It is a very, very humorous take on Kingdom Hearts, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is also the first game of the series that I've played, so it's a very unique perspective on what the heck is going on in this game. I have about half a clue of what the story consists of. That's all I'm going to say.
You've got more than I do, and I put in several hours in that game. So, well, Rel, thanks so much for joining us to talk about this, man. It was a good chatting with you again.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right, man. Catch you later.
All right, later.
All right. We got a couple of games we're going to talk about that we've been catching up on, but before we do, I got a last time I'm going to talk about these sponsors that are helping us support us over at R2V2. First off, Lori Janko Wilkie. She's an agent for State Farm Insurance. Protect those video game collections and more. You can contact her at 815-223-2118.
Also, there's the Blue Box Cafe. It's a Doctor Who themed cafe with delicious sandwiches and coffee. It's located at 175 East Chicago Street in Elgin, Illinois. And you can also find them online at www.theblueboxcafe.com.
Also, Holsibus Chiropractic for all your chiropractic needs. They are found at 1010 Harlem Road in Machesney Park, Illinois, or you can go to their website, machesney.holsibuschiropractic.com. Again, this is another sponsor that I have personal experience with, and he's fantastic, and he knows what he's talking about.
And then lastly, Classic Limousine. They are graciously providing us transportation for our 3 celebrity guests for R2V2. You could find them online at rockfordlimo.com.
All right. Games we've been catching up on. CB, you and I both, since our last episode, have finished Gears 5.
Well,
correct?
You've finished Gears 5. I had it finished last episode.
Oh, you had it finished last time. So I get to talk about Gears 5. And I have a love-hate relationship with this game. Hate's a strong word. I love how this game plays. It feels like a Gears game. It feels like a polished Gears game. I miss Gears being just a straight linear game. I find myself getting annoyed with the open world aspect, and I have zero interest in going to search out for all of these things in the open world that will probably help me. I just don't care. I don't have any reason or desire to go do it. And did you struggle like in certain areas when you were in a level and you have to like send Jack into a vent somewhere, or you have to pick up something, and I just found myself wandering around forever trying to figure out what I was supposed to click on next to activate something. Did you ever run into that at all?
There was one spot in the third act where it took me a moment to find a vent.
Uh-huh.
But did you put any points in the pulse?
Yes.
Because if you
So
pulse,
I should have used the pulse.
Yep, yeah. It was, you had to use the pulse to find it. So
I just it bothered me. I guess that's what they put it there for. I should have done that, but
yep.
We're gonna keep this spoiler free because I think we'll have a spoiler cast for this at some point in the future. But
how about
the
that
ending
decision, buddy?
Oh man, we did make the opposite decision. You did call that.
Mm-hmm.
That was an interesting decision, and I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out in the next game. But again, we'll get into more details. I kind of liked how it left, how the final shot of you kind of knew what was going to go on with Gear 6. I'm real curious how they're going to wrap it up.
Oh yeah,
but I still feel like the ending, like the actual what you were doing at the end, wasn't nearly as bombastic as like a Gears 2 or even a Gears 4 for that matter. The game looks phenomenal. Maybe that's what it was. Is I was spoiled because the whole game looks that good. But that final boss was just okay.
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, to me, I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I definitely feel that the pinnacle of this game is the choice.
Sure.
And then there's like a slow ride down to the finish almost.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that one last boss is a fun fight, but I feel that it was kind of cheapened a little.
It was an easy fight too. It wasn't difficult.
No, yeah, it definitely was not hard. But that being said, I mean, I only played it on intermediate my first time through. I'm willing to bet if I crank the difficulty, it would be much harder.
Fair enough. Again, it's something I'm being super negative on this game. Like, technically speaking, this is the best looking and best playing Gears game there is. But I still think it's not my favorite by far.
Just
I
because
think
of the open world sections?
Yeah. I think I really enjoyed a lot of Gears Judgment more than I did this, believe it or not. And I know that's kind of blasphemous. But just the open world stuff just annoyed me.
Yeah.
I don't want... I want my Gears games to be linear. We don't have to make everything like everything else nowadays. And I know it's difficult for the Coalition because no matter what they do, somebody's going to complain. They're going to complain that they're not doing it the same enough, and somebody else is going to complain that they're not doing it different enough. So it didn't keep me from playing it. It won't keep me from playing the multiplayer, which I haven't touched yet. and I don't know when I will. I've got too much to play to drop time into that. But
Horde mode's real good, man.
that's what you said. You finished one round, didn't you?
Yep.
Or like the 50, whatever.
Made it all the way to 50.
Nice. But it's a good game. It's definitely worth it, especially if you're on Game Pass. It's just a no-brainer. I have zero desire to go back through that story and find the collectibles or go to unlock all the stuff in the open world. It's not going to happen. I want to see how the story went out, and I would rather my time were focused on multiplayer if I didn't have a stack of other games to get through. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, I may go through and find some more of the collectibles. I don't know how hard I will chase them,
Right.
but Horde mode and the multiplayer and Escape are definitely my focus on that game.
I heard Escape is a lot of fun. I played the one round at E3 and it was fun, but it was more fun just being back in Gears again than anything
Yes.
else. So, also, I started Control.
Finally.
I'm barely an hour into this game. I just wanted to kind of get a feel for it, and I keep waiting for that moment when this thing starts to make any sense at all. Like I'm so lost, man. I have no idea what's going on. The gunplay feels good. But here's the thing. I had literally just finished Gears 5. I so wish I had played Control before I played Gears 5 because this game is technically messy.
Yes.
It feels a little janky, and that's a bummer after coming off a game that was as silky smooth as Gears 5 was. And it's by no means any reason I'm going to give up on it because I have to see what you guys are talking about in this game. And I'll get through it, but just nothing is making sense, man. Is there like a moment where they just explain something in the beginning?
Yeah. It takes a little bit. You'll get there.
I came across like the first boss, and I just got frustrated, and I was too tired to try it a second time. Like a flying boss in the middle of like a library or something.
Yep.
At the very beginning, and it was right after I learned the ability to like hold things and fling them.
Yeah.
And he just dodges everything I throw at him. So I'm like, why do I have this? So I don't know what's going on, but
once that game starts to click,
yeah,
that game just takes on a whole new life. I absolutely like. I can't wait to dive back into that world.
Yeah.
As much as I love Gears, I'm literally chomping at the bit for the DLC and expansion stuff for Control.
Well, yeah. Who was it from the group? Smith.
Sam Smith.
Sam Smith just finished. He got all the achievements. Got 1,000 points, and he's like, "I'm ready for more." Like you just finished it. And yeah, he adores this game. I think he's made like 3 or 4 posts.
I
this
think
game
by
alone.
the time you finish the game, you'll definitely be in our camp.
Okay.
So
I believe you. I wish that this game had a stronger intro. And again, I feel like I'm jaded because of coming off the game I had just finished. That was just stunningly gorgeous and 60 frames per second. And
yeah, from a production standpoint, it is not Gears level.
right.
But the story and world crafting definitely make up for it. I will openly tell you this is a game that when you see the collectibles, find the collectibles, read them.
I am reading it, but some of them are like full on pages of redacted material.
There's a reason. So
Okay. All right. I'll believe you. Okay. I'll report on that more. We'll talk more about Borderlands 3 next week. We'll talk more about me playing Control and Zelda for sure. But that is going to do it for this episode of the Gaming Outsider. CB, any parting words or recommendations for the listeners?
I love you all, and I cannot wait to see you at R2V2. Come hang out with me. Play my games.
I will echo that sentiment as well. I have a recommendation, not for the kids, but if you have not watched Shameless, it is the 9th season is now available on Netflix. And I know that sounds like a daunting task to encourage someone to to watch a show that is 9 seasons long. Man, Shameless is entertaining, but do not let your kids watch this show. This is an adult show like you have no idea. And I've been waiting for this season to drop on Netflix because I don't have Stars. Is it Stars?
Yeah, I believe so.
And it finally got there, and it's just like falling back in. I love following this family. They're a messed up family. Like you have no idea. And it's filmed in Chicago, and it takes place in Chicago. So it's close to home for us, which is a lot of fun. So
Nice.
if you like raunchy comedies, you're gonna want to watch Shameless, especially William H. Macy's in it, and he's the most despicable character on television I've ever seen in my entire life.
I actually do have one other thing to plug. For those of you that like to read strange books, Randall Munroe has a new book out called How To, Absurd Scientific Answers to Everyday Questions. His first book, What If, was super hilarious. I know Nate owns a copy of it. But it's just a very fun book on posing very bizarre scientific answers to everyday questions, like how to dig a hole.
Yeah, that's a scientific question.
Oh, no, but they come up with super scientific answers, like, why would you dig a hole with nuclear bombs? Like, how effective would it be? It's very interesting read.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thanks so much for listening, everybody. Please be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address, as always, is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. Until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Chris Behrensmeyer, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.